I can't believe I waited as long as I did to purchase this fragrance. It definitely has the mature vibe to it. Not an old man smelling fragrance, but a fragrance you wouldn't commonly smell on the younger crowd. My first time wearing the fragrance, my girlfriend put her nose onto my chest and asked me what I was wearing with a big smile on her face. Whenever I get that kind of response from her, I know it's a winner. Now I'm pondering on whether or not I should buy another bottle. Thank you, Curtis. That was our most recent 5-star review for our own brand, Mr. Fragrance Atrium Fragrance. We are definitely not a clone brand, but if you guys want to check out the work I'm putting out there, there's a link in the description down below. We're in our last remaining bottles. It's almost completely sold out. It's a limited edition release. It's not going to be produced again. I bought the most popular clone fragrances so you don't have to. I've been meaning to make this video for a while because I've been seeing a lot of these popular clones coming up now. All of these brands have been tinkering in the back of their labs and trying to recreate very expensive fragrances and have made a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. So I recently went ahead and purchased a lot of fragrances from these brands. One of these fragrances was gifted for a recent video, but I have to mention it in this video because it's getting a lot of hype as well, a lot of talk. And one of these is actually a sample that I accidentally got that I ended up really liking. And it's also now in this video. It's quite a popular clone fragrance. And I feel that these fragrances in general are excellent. I think clone fragrances can be a point of contention because some people don't like the fact that you are imitating the real thing. You are sort of cheapening the art and it's not as cool as having the original. But sometimes we are broke and we need to save money, and sometimes these clone fragrances can be very helpful. So today I'm going to go through 7 popular clone fragrances that are getting a lot of talk in the community right now. I'm going to discuss their scent profile, their performance, how easy it is to wear them at different occasions, and finally whether or not I think the asking price is fair. Let's get started. First, we have Latifah's Ascent. This is their clone of Sauvage Elixir. I've talked about this fragrance before in a previous video, where I've said this essentially smells about 90% similar to Sauvage Elixir. Nowhere near as luxurious, but it's very luxurious for its price tag still. This is a still excellent value daily signature version of Sauvage Elixir. Sauvage Elixir I found a bit cloying and annoying to wear because of how intense it is. This is still that similar vibe of the Middle Eastern spices, lavender, nowhere near as much ambroxan. It freshened this up and it's easier to wear both in autumn, winter. So those are the 2 seasons Elixir can be worn, but this can be worn in spring as well. So it has better wearability than Sauvage Elixir. It's got that masculine bad boy Middle Eastern vibe that Sauvage Elixir went for, but they've made it easier to wear. It's very cheap, 90% similar, and it gets me about 10 hours performance with a medium amount of projection. Just because I think it covers all bases so well, it still smells similar to Elixir, but actually improves upon it. In my opinion, I gave this previously a 10 out of 10. I got this for £30, I think. I think that price is a steal, honestly. Anything below £30 is fantastic. I think for this fragrance, you shouldn't spend more than £40, but I do think this is an excellent clone with excellent presentation as well. Afnans 9 PM. This is a clone of Jean Paul Gaultier's Ultramal. Ultramal, I always wondered if it actually ever needed a clone. It seemed a little bit redundant because it wasn't that particularly expensive, and I'm not sure who actually was asking for a clone of Ultramal. But surprisingly, this clone ended up getting a lot of hype and a lot of popularity in the community, which shocked me because I didn't think a Ultramal clone could do that. However, after a while, I had to see what all the buzz was about. I got this for about £20. And I think that's an excellent price for this. I am also now a fanboy of this. I've been converted. Ultramal, I think, is a nice fragrance. I've never been blown away by it personally, but I've always thought it was a bit annoying how it was so synthetic, headache inducing, so limited to where it's going to be worn. It's going to be just something very fun and casual to wear, and like, as people say, in the clubs. You know, it's mainly a clubbing fragrance. So the fact that they took that, kept a similar level of quality, freshened it up, made it a daily fresh fragrance you can wear in the autumn, winter, and the spring while still having excellent performance is fantastic. Everyone loves the sexiness and the fun, playful vibe of the sweet bubblegum of Ultramal with the pear notes in there, vanilla, cinnamon. It's sort of like they took all those great notes and they've toned them down a bit to make it more wearable in 9 PM. Still getting over 8 hours longevity with a medium amount of projection. They've taken Ultramal, improved it, made it cheaper. For £20, this is a fantastic fragrance. I gave this 9 PM a 9 out of 10. Haramain's Detour Noir. I don't like how this is such a funny little bottle shape here. It's such a weird little concoction of things going on here with the bottle. I don't like the cap, it's very awkward to take off as well. But I think that's where all my criticism ends, basically. If you guys don't know already, Detour Noir is the very hyped clone in the community right now that is cloning Parfum de Marly's Layton. I have tried a previous clone of Layton called Alexandria Fragrances Royal Equestrian. Wasn't particularly similar. It was like about 80% similar. It's kind of doing its own thing. So I thought, okay, there's not really any clone of Layton out right now. Of course, then this came around, got a lot of hype. How does it get along? Does it achieve what it wants to? Is it a clone of Layton? Absolutely. This is, I would say, 90% similar to Parfum de Marly's Layton. If you smell this up close in the first 10 minutes, you will think this is a horrible fragrance. In the air, straight away, I sprayed it on my neck. I didn't smell it up close, like on my skin or anything like that. I thought I was wearing Layton straight away. So straight away, it smells like Layton, but don't go too close on the skin because then you realize it is a more synthetic fragrance with cheaper musks, I think. But overall, this smells very similar to Layton. Over 90% in my opinion, all the way from the very beginning. I've had both fragrances, one spray on each side on my wrists to compare. The scent profile is very similar. It's just more that the texture and the robustness of Layton is a bit more rounded out, strong. You feel like the musks are really pushing. I have the old bottles in fairness, and maybe that's why I'm getting that. But I feel like Layton is just a better quality fragrance overall, but this is still very similar and it's still very high quality for the price of around £30 that I spent for this. So I actually think this kind of makes it that you don't need to own both fragrances. It's so similar performing as well. This lasts over 10 hours, which is just phenomenal. It's matching Layton for sure. It's getting a similar amount of projection, medium projection as well, similar wearability. Springs, autumn and winter, those 3 seasons is when you wear Layton, that's when you wear Detour Noir. So I think that Layton isn't completely redundant by this. Some clone fragrances make an original fragrance completely redundant, but this doesn't do that. I think Layton still has that density, that robustness, that rounded out feeling that makes it feel that is a little bit better constructed. But get Layton if you really love the DNA, you really want the original, the really high quality stuff. And then if you don't really care for it too much, you can get Detour Noir. I don't think you need to own both, honestly. Just wear Layton if you really love this stuff, but Detour Noir is a great replacement. I think this is fantastic value for money. I can't really fault this, honestly. It smells super high quality still. I don't want to, try to undermine it. I don't like the presentation, but the fragrance, the juice is fantastic. I give it a 10 out of 10. And then, unintentionally, I got a sample with Detour Noir from Al Haramain as well. This is Al Haramain's Amber Oud Tobacco Edition. I've got a little sample here. If you don't already know, this is meant to be a clone of Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. I like that fragrance. I don't wear it that often personally. I think I've actually given my bottle away now, but Tobacco Vanille is a classic from the brand. That's very much, I would say, a special occasion cold weather fragrance. You want to smell elegant in a black tuxedo fragrance wearing a tobacco vanilla fragrance with sweet dried fruits. It's one of its main notes. It's very intense, gourmand tobacco and vanilla. Lovely evening scent. It's not a fragrance I've been sticking out a clone specifically because I don't really care that much about it, but I think there's been quite a few already. I think Zara Warm Black is another popular clone of the fragrance. However, I just got this as a free sample and I was blown away by, first of all, how similar this smells. Maybe in the first 5 minutes it's a bit more synthetic, it's not as realistic or as gourmand smelling as Tobacco Vanille, but after the first 5 minutes, it dries down extremely similar. I would say over 95%. And the longevity on this was insane as well. Over 12 hours, I think just beating Tobacco Vanille. And overall, I think this is like, what, at least a fifth of the price of the original Tobacco Vanille, which just makes this, in my opinion, a very strong clone. I didn't care too much about Tobacco Vanille, I didn't care too much about a clone for it, but this has shocked me so much. I think this is a 10 out of 10. And in my opinion, it actually makes the original Tobacco Vanille redundant, which is just shocking. It's not going to be a Tom Ford fragrance, it's not going to feel as cool, but I really don't think you need to have Tobacco Vanille whilst this exists. You can save yourself a lot of money and get a very similar vibe, very similar scent, similar quality, and probably better longevity. So if you guys really want to save money on that fragrance, check this one out, guys. I'm putting you on it now. I am personally extremely impressed by this. Latifa's Khamrah. If you can't tell by the tacky replication of the bottle, this is meant to be Killian's Angel Share. Killian's Angel Share is a gorgeous, boozy, gourmand fragrance, so it's booze, whiskey, mixed with a praline notes. Very sweet, decadent, and just glowing amber. It's a beautiful, I would say, masterpiece of an artistic take on a boozy gourmand. Khamrah, I feel, is a clone, but not in a very similar way. It's more like 80% similar. It is less gourmand, in my opinion. It smells more amber boozy. So it's like an amber boozy fragrance. Sort of think like Bentley Ferment Intense took away the seriousness, the maturity of it, and made it a bit more easy to wear, a bit more fresh. I feel that this does freshen up the Angel Share DNA a little bit. You can wear this in springtime, in the autumn and the winter. It gives you decent longevity, 8 hours. It doesn't have an insane quality. I don't think it matches the quality of Angel Share. It's not going to make it redundant at all, like Amber Oud's Tobacco Edition does to Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. I do think it's a solid pick though. If you do want an affordable alternative, not an exact clone, but I'd say it's more of an alternative, it gets a similar vibe and it has the similar occasions that this would be worn in compared to Angel Share. So you can wear it as a similar function, but save yourself some money. I don't think it's mind-blowing, but it's not a terrible fragrance. You won't be disappointed if you buy this for the £40 that I spent on this. I don't think you should spend more than £40 on this fragrance. It's a solid fragrance. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Armaf's Club de Nuit Untold. This is Armaf's recent hype beast that's been getting a lot of talk because it's a clone of Baccarat Rouge 540 by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, which is a fragrance that has a lot of clones. So I was also thought to myself, this can't be that mind-blowing. How many clones do we have now of that fragrance? I do think Baccarat Rouge is a gorgeous fragrance. I think it's a masterpiece, honestly. It's not trying to be super fancy or complicated. It's quite a simple fragrance, but it just constructed so nicely. It's a very sparkly, effervescent, amber saffron fragrance with a lot of woodiness in there as well. And ambroxan, of course. It's synthetic, but at the same time, I still think it smells luxurious. It's such a strange fragrance. Club de Nuit Untold is that scent profile, but without the texture, in my opinion. It's about 85 to 90% similar in the scent profile, but it doesn't have that effervescent, that sparkle, as I said. It's more creamy, dense, and heavy. I sort of said before in the previous video that I reviewed this, that this is a mixture of Mancera's Instant Crush and Baccarat Rouge 540 came along and had a baby, and it made this. It's got a thickness, creaminess, that Middle Eastern touch of Instant Crush, whilst having the scent profile of Baccarat Rouge. It's not bad. I don't think this is going to replace Baccarat Rouge at all. I don't think the projection is there either. It's got like soft to medium projection, but it's got good longevity, about 8 to 10 hours. You can definitely wear this as an affordable alternative if you want to save up on your Baccarat Rouge, you don't want to spend too much money on it, you have it to decide where this is a daily driver instead. I think, it's not bad for the price. I do not think you should spend more than £40 on this fragrance. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And lastly, AFnan Supremacy, Not Only Intense. Now, what is this supposed to be cloning? Now, a lot of people say this is meant to be cloning Creed Aventus, but I sort of disagree with that. This is very much Creed Aventus pineapple, heavy on the fruit version of Creed Aventus initially in the opening for the first 10 to 20 minutes. And then after that, actually, it becomes very dense, a little bit green, a little bit mossy. And that mossiness is what makes this fragrance remind me more of Nishane's Hacivat. I think this is more of a clone of Nishane's Hacivat than it is Creed Aventus. So you get the first 10-20 minutes of Aventus, and then I'd say 6 hours or so of a very good Hacivat clone, 85% to 90% similar, I would say. It lasts about 8 hours overall, this fragrance, and I think the last few hours, the dry down, at the base, the musks do smell a bit cheap. It does smell like a synthetic fragrance, something that costs about £20. But this fragrance is not bad. Overall, I would say this smells higher quality than the price you're paying. Personally, I'm kind of over the entire Aventus-esque fragrances now. I'm over that entire family. I think we should move on. We should leave that to the last decade now. This is not a bad fragrance though. If you do want a fragrance in that direction, I think this gets an 8 out of 10. And there we are, guys. 7 of the most popular clone fragrances that are out right now. Are there any that you were disappointed that you didn't see? Are there other clone fragrances that you want me to review? I can do a part 2 to this if you guys want it. What do you guys think of clone fragrances? Are you for or against them? Have you tried any that were featured in today's list? What are your thoughts? Make sure to share them down below with us as well. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out our previous videos on clone fragrances. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.